So there's a lot of Angry Birds characters and a lot of Angry Birds games, right? Probably more games than I could count in this video. So yeah, there's a lot of Angry Birds characters. And most of these characters I'd probably say are pretty well known. Like, you have the main ones and then the side ones. But to the general public and to the mainstream media, I'd say these characters are pretty well known. And when I mean well known, I mean characters that when you put in Angry Birds on Google and go into images, basically most of these characters will show up. So yeah, they're pretty popular. However, sometimes more characters get more forgotten or just generally unknown to the public. There can be many reasons as to why this can happen. However, I'm going to be talking about one of the pretty recognizable Angry Birds characters who could have had a lot of potential in the games, but got pretty forgotten about by Rovio. This being Icebird. If you played Angry Birds in the early years, you'd probably recognize him from Angry Birds Space. And I want to talk about the history of this character as well as why a lot of people think he's cool. And I could have made a joke there. But yeah, let's get into the history of Icebird. Also, please subscribe because I really want to reach 500 subs by August. So yeah, let's get into the video. So before we get into the details, who exactly is Icebird? Well, he was an original character made by Rovio for the game Angry Birds Space. Throughout that game, you could play as him in various levels, and his powers were, no shocker, ice related, where he could freeze the surrounding blocks and enemies and turn them into ice, making them explode. He was a pretty big part for the Angry Birds Space marketing, as he appeared in posters, advertisements, cutscenes uploaded to YouTube, and more. And it makes sense why he was such a big deal for the game. He was one of the only Angry Birds characters at the time to only be playable in one game, and that one game being Angry Birds Space. So yeah, he was a pretty popular thing for the marketing. And his unknown and mysterious personality in the game made him a pretty interesting character for most people. Even today, you can find new fan art of the character on social media. So yeah, people still think this guy is cool. And it showed that even back then, in the early days of Angry Birds, Rovio still had a lot of creativity and ideas for their game, and a lot of new stuff that they wanted to try, which is obviously a good thing. So after all this popularity in this big game, what really happened next for Icebird? Well, not much really, which is why I'm making this video in the first place. To be honest, he was just generally pushed to the side for cameos in other Angry Birds games, such as in Angry Birds Lotus F1 team, where he only makes a cameo on a flag in the level selection screen. However, something interesting did happen later in the years. There was a rumor on Twitter that he was going to be playable in the game Angry Birds Go. And that's because there was a tweet that revealed an unknown concept art that was discovered by an official game designer named Liz Edwards. Which, if this was true, it was going to be a pretty big comeback for the character. But when she was asked about it on Twitter, she basically said that she didn't know anything about it because she was only an intern at the time. Which basically killed off any chances of him being an official character in the game. But maybe he could appear as a DLC or something, right? Well, obviously that's not true, because if you played Angry Birds Go, you'd obviously notice that Icebird is not in the game, and in both versions at that. So yeah, it was all just a big rumor that didn't come true, so don't fall for false information on the internet. So after this, did Rovio even use the character again? Well, not much. The character was pretty killed off at this point. I mean, he still made a couple cameos here and there, such as in the Angry Birds Star Wars short Boba's Delivery, where for a split second you could see him in a toy form, like as a cameo. But yeah, that pretty sums up how much he was used in the games. He was only used as cameos and nostalgic bait, so he wasn't really an important character anymore. And to finally prove that his character was killed off and not remembered by Rovio, in the Angry Birds movie, both of them, you know, the thing that was made to literally celebrate Angry Birds history and basically had every other character in some way appear. Well yeah, in this big thing for the Angry Birds franchise, he didn't even make an appearance. Not as a main character, not as a side character, or not even as a cameo. So yeah, he was pretty killed off at this point, and this basically proves it. Safe to say that this character will not be making a comeback anytime soon. He's pretty forgotten by Rovio, and he's only pushed to the side as cameos and nostalgic bait for OG Angry Birds fans. Now, I'm not saying he could never appear in an Angry Birds game. Rovio could make another game that he's playable in, and it would make more sense that he'd come back in maybe a remake for Angry Birds Space, like they remade the classic Angry Birds games. In this case, then yeah, I could see him coming back, but I don't really think he's gonna. He was such a one-off character at the time that it doesn't really make sense for him to come back in any way. I mean, it'd be cool, but just very unlikely. But I mean, who knows, you can't really judge by it now. We just have to wait and see if Rovio brings him back, which again, I doubt, but we'll just have to see. Rovio has been heavy on nostalgia lately, and this character is pretty nostalgic for a lot of original Angry Birds fans, so they could bring him back one day. But I don't know, again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. Well, let me know what you think of this character, and if you enjoyed the game Angry Birds Space. And also subscribe, join the Discord, and that stuff. Alright, bye.